Welcome to Glowing Success. My name is Heidi and I am your host. This podcast is for beauty entrepreneurs. Join me weekly as we dive into the beauty industry's ins and outs, from business strategies, top-selling services, and taboo topics. I will be interviewing industry leaders with empowering stories and game-changing insights. Let's illuminate your path to success together. Let's jump into this next episode. Today, I'm chatting with Miss Nikki. She is a community advocate and legal advocacy liaison. So she's here to talk about the moment she physically blocked the face of a white supremacist, and we'll mention that person in a little bit. But that person came to Minneapolis to disrupt us, and she was blocking them. But we're going to go so much deeper into this conversation than just that clip, okay? We're talking about courage in the moment, what it actually means to protect your community, the realities of legal advocacy work, and what people on the ground are experiencing right now. Like, this is happening. So this is about standing firm, showing up for each other, and understanding the responsibility we all carry in times like this, okay? And I'm really grateful that Miss Nikki is here sharing her voice, her leadership, and I'm excited for you guys to check her out too. Welcome, Miss Nikki.
Hey Heidi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on. I'm so excited. And like this, this conversation is going to feel like we're sharing the tea a little bit, but we're also here to inspire, and you're going to share so much knowledge. I can already
Absolutely.
tell.
Yeah.
But for anybody that's not familiar with you, or the listener that is like, who is this Miss Nikki? And what led you into community work? What led you into legal advocacy work? Can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Well, just on the basic, Miss Nikki is just a normal gal. But I'm a mom. I'm in the past was a wife. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. Just the basics. I'm a business owner, but I'm also a truck driver. So I do a lot of things just on a personal side. Advocacy for me started in 2008, but it really started a lot longer in my past. As a kid, I saw certain ideologies and certain words being used within my family that didn't feel comfortable. As I got older, I realized like this wasn't normal. This isn't how people should think. And so advocacy started at, like, I think the age of 11 for me within my home, telling my dad, who was very openly, opposed to people that didn't look like him with his white skin. And I would say, like, that's not right. You shouldn't talk about them like that. They're people. They bleed the same. They have the same dreams and desires. So at the age of 11, that's how I was already talking.
That's wild. I mean, listen, we know sometimes deep down, right? Of like what's good, what's not good, what are the things that we should speak about. And I'm obviously little 11-year-old self was probably so brave to do that. So,
Mm,
and obviously
right.
it's grown into all the cool things that you have shown up and done for other people, and just shown up in the ways that you show up now. So I really commend you for that, because it's probably hasn't that sounds like it was not an easy journey by any means.
Yeah.
People would love to hear about your advocacy work. What is that all about?
So it started from a place of love, like you said, just looking at people in my home like, wait, I don't understand this ideology. I didn't grow up from the beginning with my father. So that's why the ideology was very different once I moved in with him. And so it really came from a place of love, first, of like, wow, I don't want people to be harmed. I don't want people to be talked about like this. So preparing for advocacy happened as a child because of the attacks that I experienced being like the black sheep of the family. And so I want to make mention of that because you'll see later the effects of what advocacy can really bring to you personally, and the courage that it does take every day. Um, I was witnessing injustice up close. And as a kid and a teenager, I decided it was something I just couldn't look away from. And a lot of people have said that to me, like, oh, you could have went back to your suburb home and been back to your family and been comfortable. I just can't. Like, I don't know how anybody can. But I don't judge anybody. I just say, hey, we don't all have the capacity. But for me, even on days when I feel like I don't have the capacity, I'm like, oh, there's somebody out there that my voice could help. So today, everything I do is rooted in one belief, that community power can shift a system, and it only takes one voice to bring us together. So,
Yeah, and that courageous one voice, right? That
mm,
person stepping forward. And that's, yeah, like you said, sometimes you have to be that leader in those moments in order for other people to find that courage within themselves to like step up and be present and doing all the things. So I
right.
once again commend you for that because not
Thank
every, like you said earlier, not everybody's not everybody's built like that, and everybody has
you.
the
Yeah.
voice for that. So we need people like you in the crowd to get it going, or people like you to speak up for the people who are not, or the people who are forgotten a lot of times in our
Yeah.
society. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Now, okay, we're gonna get into a little bit of tea, and then we'll get back to some of those other things. But
Okay.
let's talk about your moment with, we're gonna use his full name here, people, Edward Jake Lang. Probably Jacob, I'm guessing. Might be Jake, but anyway. Some people call him Jeremy online. But anyway, if you're not
Yeah.
familiar and you're listening and you're like, who the heck are they talking about? He is a white supremacist that have come to the Twin Cities, come to Minneapolis to specifically disrupt. So to specifically hold white supremacist rallies, to which none of them worked out, to specifically disrupt our community here and the work that we're doing on the ground. So maybe can you share with me, so you have this viral moment online where people are seeing your pink nails, seeing you block his face. Now, let's set the scene a little bit, you guys. Jake Lane was here to um, disrupt and have his own little thing downtown Minneapolis. Obviously, we're very community strong here. I don't know if you guys have seen anything, and if you don't live here, if you've seen anything, we're very community strong here. We're very, we're out in these streets, we're doing the things. So everybody in our, community surrounded him, and he was like up on these, like we have kind of these window eaves that are in this building that's downtown. He's sitting inside these eaves of this building, these windows, and people are, yelling at him, and there's a lot of commotion and chaos going on. And of course, he was just by himself and like a couple other people. It was not, he did not have the group of people that he thought was going to be coming out that day. So, anyway, Miss Nikki was there, and she had got up courageously on that ledge that he was on and put her hands in front of him. But okay, so I set the scene. Now, from your perspective, what all went down that day?
How the day began was I knew, some comrades had sent me messages like, hey, there's going to be some KKK members downtown at the city hall. What is your capacity today? We need some support. So I was like, okay, what support do you need? Hey, I just need you to observe and let us know when the group moves, because we have people in the community protecting the neighborhoods as they move through. And so I was like, okay, so started out as observation. And I hate to even admit this, but like, I didn't know who he was. Like the January 6er, like I knew who that was, but I didn't know it was this little 5'2" guy. Like, I was like, okay. So, anyways, they were like, okay, it's a hate rally happening in our community. So the night before, I reviewed some things, and there was a post by him, and he had spewed serious hate and talking about killing people of Muslim descent. He was against Islamification, like, and the part about him killing people on his Ring camera is what really hit me. Like, this is terroristic threats, and this person is going to be in our community tomorrow morning. So then when my comrades were like, hey, can you come? Absolutely. Because I've always said, and because of my experience with my father, when I left home around 17, I said, I'm going to spend my life using my skin to right my father's wrongs. And I always felt like my skin could potentially put me on the front lines. It could potentially take my life. It could whatever, because people that are white supremacists will say that they dislike anybody that doesn't look like them. But what they hate more is people that look like them, that stand up for people that don't look like them. So I've always had that belief, like it could be a day that I'm in danger, and I'm not afraid. Like, so that day came, you set the scene perfectly. As they were coming out of their vehicles, I see them. I quickly park. I'm like, this is that group. Okay. There's like 15 of them. I'm like, where's the 5,000? They start spewing their hate right away. They're amped up, and the crowd there was the counter protesters, and they were just kind of like standing in resistance, not really doing anything. They had a line of bikes and this. And then as he made his way over to the in front of the city hall, I had just kind of still been observing, letting my comrades know what's going on, this what's happening. And my comrade was like, we don't necessarily need a play by play, just let us know when they move from that area. Okay, perfect. As he moved to the window eave, I call it the window ledge, but an eave is better because it's pretty deep. There's a big gap in front, and all this passion inside of me that I remember I had when I was trying to explain to my father why we are all equal, that rose up in me. And it was like almost like I just was blinded by anything that was going on. I saw an opening. I saw the ladder to get up into the window eave with him. I looked up. I said to him, "Oh, you just going to leave your girl out here?" Because there was a redhead with him that was like protecting him. And she had a similar hat that I had on, like a beanie and everything. And so I wanted to make mention, like, "Oh, you're just going to leave your girl out here," because I wanted him to know it wasn't me, right? That it was, as I climbed up there. So as I climbed up there, he's looking, but I see him look around at the crowd. And at this moment, he looks and he's like, "Oh, that's not the girl that was with me." I see this look in his face. So I know he's like, "Oh shit." But he looks around, he sees all the people. There's nothing he could do. But very quickly, he did attempt to push me off the ledge because I turned to him as he's looking at me like, "Who are you?" I said, "Shut the fuck up, Nazi." And that's when he went to push me off the ledge. And I said, like, "Whoa." And then the crowd in front had moved in and closed that space. The redhead was now trying to get to me. And the media was like, "Put your hands on her one more time and we're going to have a problem." So, because they knew who I was. So, okay, it was Jolly Good Ginger and a couple of the people right in the front of the crowd. Walter Masterson made it up there with me too. So he's back in the corner. So that's what was happening. So in that moment, it was just, I looked out at the crowd and I was terrified because listen, I'm not like, I do a lot on social media and I'll do news conferences and I do things for my advocacy, but it's like a very poised professional moment, very planned. This was not planned. So I was like, oh shit. So I'm like, well, we're here now. I'm not about violence. So the only thing I could think of was to interrupt his photo op with my hand. First, I had my glove on to also just keep him distracted so he couldn't complete his speech. That was my goal. So,
Well, you were very good at that goal. That's crazy. I mean, yeah, the thought that he thinks that, and he has been repeatedly been unproductive with all of his stuff that he's done here. So I was laughing when he got arrested. If you have seen the videos online, or maybe check them out if you guys haven't seen them, but on our Capitol steps, there was prosecute ICE in ice sculptures. So big ice blocks, right? So if you can imagine, it's a big, big situation. Anyway, he went up there to do his little video op that he was trying to do and knocked a bunch of it down. So it just said pro ICE. And obviously it's the Capitol. So like that's a federal crime usually on the Capitol steps.
yeah.
So because it's state property, but so he got arrested for, destruction of property and things like that. But he got let out the same day, which I was a little disappointed, or within 24 hours, I should say. I don't know if it was
Yeah.
that exact day, but he got let out very fast.
Mhm.
But I will say like that, even instances like that where people are coming here to disrupt, coming here to spew their hate. He is a very known white supremacist. Like you said, he was involved in the January 6th, and that's how he got all of his little glory that he has had. But the one thing that showed up that day and the one thing that rang true, and even if you weren't there, you could feel it from the videos, is all of us that were there to counter his protest are stronger, more, you know what I mean? Like that.
Definitely.
So I think you feeling safe in that crowd, even though it was a scary moment in the moment, you were acting, how you wanted to act. Like it's so nice to see that because, that to me is what, we've shown up in Minnesota for each other. Like we have shown what community looks like. We've shown that,
Yeah.
there's more of us, you know what I mean, of the people who are fighting for our neighbors, fighting for our human rights, like all of that truly matters. Okay, we're not going to give him any more of our time.
No, but I do want to say this, that one thing that I think Minnesota has set the standard on, and people here, that a lot of people talk about Minnesota nice. And let's be clear that Minnesota nice doesn't mean Minnesota weak at
Right.
all. Like I always say, don't take people's kindness as weakness. And Minnesota is the epitome of that, because what Minnesota, I think, and all of us here, we show that resistance doesn't always have to look loud or aggressive.
Right.
Sometimes it looks calm, intentional, and rooted in protecting others. It doesn't have to look like how they are.
Right.
And so in that moment, like a lot of people were like thinking him and I were together because they're seeing I'm laughing, he's smiling, but that was the goal. Like, to, for me, it's planting seeds of softness, kindness, femininity, of resistance, still saying, shut the fuck up. Like,
Right.
we don't need you here. We don't want you here. We don't believe what you believe.
Right.
And that's when he turned to me at one moment and he said, damn, you're so beautiful. Why are you on their side? I was like, there's no side. It's humanity. It's all humanity.
Hmm.
And that was kind of my feel on it, and how Minnesota shows up. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be loud, aggressive. It doesn't have to be violent. It can just be a hand over the face saying quiet piggy.
Right. Yes. I think it requires both, to be honest. The resistance is
Yeah.
going to require both of like people who
Oh
are
yeah.
very violent and people who are taking that action and the people who we are showing it in different ways. But I love that because, yeah. And also, we were there to disrupt him. So, like, we're going to do that by all means necessary, whether it be putting our hand in his face or, throwing things at
Yeah.
him. Like,
Pulling him
that
off
is
the line.
throwing off, yeah. So I love that, and your courage was felt online, of course. Your courage is felt everywhere, even for us Minnesotans. And like you said, yes, we are Minnesota strong. If you guys have ever been
Yeah.
through a Minnesota winter, it will definitely make you a stronger person when you're getting through that 20 below weather.
Ooh
Okay,
wee.
so I know, right? So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit more about your legal advocacy work, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So obviously people are probably like myself, I'm kind of wondering what does that actually look like on like a day-to-day basis, or what do you do when it comes to your legal advocacy work?
My role in my position is about bridging gaps. Like, I've done a lot of education courses. I've sat with a lot of people, elders that are in like legal work, to just understand it. I've done, sat with victims and understanding the impact this has on them. And victims aren't just the victims that are out here. Victims are behind the walls, that are a victim of the system and the corruption. So when I say that, I want everybody to know that when they make it look like this big bad monster that committed all these crimes, and this person is saying I'm innocent, they're a victim because they've been lied on by the system. So, but I'm bridging gaps between like families, legal teams, public. It can mean researching cases, researching records. I'm helping families understand complex legal processes, coordinating communication, not just with legal team, but with family, because sometimes the family believes the justice system and they've maybe stepped back, and then bringing the family back in and saying, hey, no, you're not wrong for thinking that you can believe that your loved one is innocent or whatnot. It's mobilizing community support, where whether it be like financial support, boots on the ground, writing your authorities, writing your representatives, whatever that looks like, mobilizing of any type of support. But it's important because so many families face systemic injustice, but also injustice in our home. And then it's tough because we have victims in on so many levels, and we have a system that wants to believe that the victims are not telling the truth, or the victims are scorned, or whatever it may be. And that's, I think, the toughest part, because people feel isolated and overwhelmed, but also they're marginalized people in community, that people have taken advantage of their money situation and maybe have taken their money and not produced what they needed. So when people turn to me, generally, they don't have any resources left. I've never taken any money for any cases that I've worked on since 2008. I think I had a family put $20 in gas in my car one time, and it was because they needed, a ride somewhere, but it wasn't even like for the service. So I think that, and a lot of people are like, man, you could make so much money. But what does that make me when I know that these people are being taken advantage of and being victimized already? It's really about navigating that. It's legal liaison work that is ensuring that I can help these people navigate so they have a future, not just as a victim, maybe of DVSA, trafficking, whatever. I mean, everything, the justice system, over sentencing, wrongful conviction. But right now, transparency, public awareness, and community engagement are more critical than ever, because justice systems work best when there's accountability and informed public attention. So a lot of times I will post, and I will post about public officials that have been voted in office and talk about who they are. And it doesn't always look good for them. And then people like, oh, well, how did they get into office? Because people truly believe that there's no corruption in the justice system. And this is why I'm so vocal about it and saying, like, look, this is happening.
I hear all the things you're saying. Like I feel it deeply because I have personally have had people in my life get arrested and you're wrongfully accused of things before your case even goes to court. And
Mm,
then, like you're saying, our oppressive systems unfortunately keep a lot of people oppressed. And that's
mm,
what they're set up to do. Let's be
yeah,
honest. Like these
yeah,
systems are set up for oppression. And I think the more that people can wake up to that and understand that, like the more they're going to have that empathy in their heart for people who have sat in the system for years without a court date. You know what I
yep,
mean? And so I think there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's just not enough people that understand the system unless you've been through it, unless you've had somebody been through it, or like unless you've seen it in your real life. And
yeah,
so I'm not saying that people can't have that empathy if they just hear about it and understand it, but like there's just something different that happens to you that when you've seen it happen to somebody and you're like experiencing it, it's so wrong. You know what I mean? And then, so I understand why you've gone into the work that you've gone into and like why you do it unpaid and like,
mm,
because honestly, and you were talking about how, some things don't come to light. There's tons of stories that are never going to come to light, right? They're never going to get social
right.
media presence. They're never going to get, for sure, not going to get news conferencing. They're not
No,
going to, and so sometimes it requires us as community members to be like, hey, this person has literally been sitting in jail for 3 years with no court date.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so, like, and that's just obviously a broad example, but like,
right.
so I see what you're saying. And then, yeah, bridging that gap. So you're now talking about the effects of all those things, of like how that ripple effect goes into families, it goes into
Yeah,
generations, goes into how people survive. And
mm,
I think if you're listening, you can understand how that happens when people are being abducted by ICE right now.
yeah,
Now, let's say your main breadwinner of your house, let's say your husband, whoever is the breadwinner of your house, gets abducted by ICE. All of a sudden, that is a direct effect now on how your household operates, whether it be paying bills, those main pieces are missing all of a sudden, right? And so I can only imagine, like, a lot of times too, the emotional toll that happens if you have a loved one that's like wrongfully convicted, or you have, there's all these different scenarios, but it
yeah.
is a ripple effect. And I know that for a fact. It's generational trauma is generational trauma for a reason. You know what I mean? So like, how do you see that working in that of how it does affect people?
I think that it runs so deep, and me being somebody who even forged a relationship that built out of a connection and a friendship, that not only seeing the effects of what it does to their families, their children, but then also being an affected family member at one point, and just knowing that it feels so helpless and hopeless. It feels like we can never defeat it. And a lot of people say, oh, well, the system is broken. And I've always said, it's not broken. It was set up to do this. This is why we have to dismantle it. And so people think I'm crazy when I talk about abolishing courts, cages, and jails, because I say, like, why would we abolish it? They're like, oh, you just want to have a lawless world? No, I want a whole new system that's forged on humanity. This is not what it is. This is not what it is. And so I think seeing the effects of it, but then also seeing the effects of what it does to advocates. And then people feeling like they want to be the first person with the news story. It's not a news story for us. It's not a case number. It's not, I want to be the first one on the scene. It's not that at all. It's, I care for every person deeply that I connect with. And also, in addition, I'm like a 100% empath, which doesn't make it easy, but it does make it to where everything's real when it comes from me. Like, there's no show, there's no clout, there's no, because I promise you, a lot of advocates hate me. A lot of community hate me for a lot of reasons. They'll say, we don't need this white woman speaking up, for this. We need our people. Okay, cool. I'm not trying to intrude in any space. But if I can use my skin and my privilege to get into an office and help you get to the table, and then I back up, that's what I want. I'm not saying that you need me. It's not white saviorism. We have to be realistic on what the system is. So sometimes that's how it's used. Like use me to get into the door. I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? And it's like I think some people don't see it that way. They think that their intention, they don't understand the intention. Like there's nights I have death threats. Like often I have, people, I've even had, family members that have turned on me, my own family. I've also had family members of the people that are in there, you know, not really understand and think, well, he was in trouble when he was younger, so he must have did it. Like, no, that's not how it works.
Mm-mm.
So, I just see every piece of it, every aspect of it, and how I just try to inform people like we can't we can't continue to make excuses for a system that was built on oppression, that was built on slave catching, that was built on lying. I mean, what are we seeing now?
Yeah.
What
A lot of our systems are built on white supremacy, let's be honest. So
absolutely.
we can't ignore that. And I think a lot of times too, I think when we're getting hate, so when you're in positions like that, when you're getting hate, a lot of times it's people don't know where to put the anger sometimes. And so you're just
Yep.
the easiest, thing to put that. So that's probably some of it. It's, misplaced anger. And then some of it is those people don't actually understand how you got to be in the place that you've gotten to. So
Yeah.
somebody obviously connected with you in some way because
Yeah.
it sounds to me like you only advocate for cases and people and situations where you're brought upon too, right? Like you
Yes.
people reached out to you specifically for it. So
Exactly.
it's not like you're out there finding these things and you're
No.
searching because that's not what you do. Like you said earlier, you don't get paid for it. So
No.
I think that's sometimes the miscommunication too of like the family members especially or the people who are just seeing you in these cases and don't actually
Yeah.
understand that lineage of like how it actually became that you were there.
Yeah.
Now, and then at the end of the day, like, you know, as long as we have good hearts with what we're doing, as long as we're doing things with the intention of, like you said earlier, not stepping on people's toes, like that's all you can do. And like, there's
Yeah.
always going to be, unfortunately, miscommunication. There's always going to be
Yeah.
people who have misplaced anger. Like, that's just, it's because it's a lot of times when you're doing that work, you're dealing with things that are just very emotional, very volatile,
Yes.
very,
Exactly.
so you're gonna have to deal, you know what I mean? So I can
Right.
understand how you have some of that at you because,
Yeah.
or just anytime people speak out, like that's how you found me. I spoke out against that client and that video went viral,
Yeah.
and so I will say, like, anytime you are really standing firm on what you believe in, anytime you really, that is what you're doing, you're gonna have a pushback, whether in probably both sides. Like, I'm sure you
Yeah.
have a lot of support just as much as you have that negative, you know what I mean? So I'm hoping.
I think I do. I do.
Okay.
And before we close out, I want to talk a little bit about you too, because you're
Oh,
amazing. I just
oh,
want to say that
thank
really quick.
you. Thank
My mind.
you.
I think people get confused when they see in the patriarchal view that they've been indoctrinated in and the oppressive and the white supremacist indoctrinations. They see somebody soft, somebody feminine. They call me diva. They think that we're supposed to be obedient and, at home taking care of the family and this and that. And I think that sometimes what we don't understand, we attack. And so for me, a lot of these I don't respond to it because I'm like, I'm not going to respond because one, I don't want to make people feel less than because we can always turn around and change our mind. So I'm never going to publicly then dox somebody in return. I could, like, I definitely could. I think about that. There's nights when I sit and I go, man, if these people only knew what I could
Right.
say, but then I say at the end of the day, I stand on humanity. And it can't just be that I stand on humanity when it comes to somebody that is a victim of injustice. It has to be humanity across the board. And so this is what I really try to represent. I'm human. I've made mistakes. But at the end of the day, I really try to say, what would my humanity want if I was them? If I was had this displaced anger, like you said,
Hmm.
how would I want to be held? So I always try to go back and say, hey, I understand where you're coming from, but listen, that's not me.
Right.
So I'll say like move around or wrong person or
Right.
go check somebody else's profile. But that's where it stops for me. Like I just try to let them know like you got the wrong one,
Yeah.
but
Good
yeah.
for you, because man, sometimes the better side of me catches up and I'm like, oh, I will say that's why I did not post like a clapback video to my
Yeah.
thing because,
Right.
and I posted on my Patreon because I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to
Yeah.
say things uncensored, and that's why I
Yeah.
like Patreon. That's why I like my podcast. But I will say, like, I also didn't want to give energy to it in that way because, like, we're so busy here in Minnesota, like focusing on community and doing community efforts that, like, number one, that was like part of the reason I was like, I don't have
Yeah.
time for this. Like, I don't want this to be taking up any more time that it already
Yeah.
has. But then also, I don't know, like you said, like there's just, you have to, in a sense, I feel bad for people that think like her. I feel bad for
Yeah.
like all the voicemails, and I got in death threats too, all the voicemails and death threats and all the things, and understanding where their mindset is, like it's crazy to me
Yeah.
because you feel bad for them because it's a lot of that's just like either it's willful ignorance or it's ignorance in general, or it is
Yeah.
truly white supremacy. So
Yeah.
like they truly feel that way, or they're just ignorant to the facts that they don't understand, or you know what I mean? So we have to
Yeah.
like understand like, hey, everybody comes from a place, and like unfortunately these people, a lot of those people don't have the correct information and they're just
Yeah.
flying with it, but yes, I think that, humanity, we need to think about, I was watching a podcast earlier today about, and it was a video too, and the guy in there was talking about, what's going on is so much deeper than just being like a Democrat or a
Yeah.
Republican, right?
Yeah.
And he was saying like, and that's where I feel like it really cues in for your humanity is like, yes, we're having a lot of disagreements when it comes to certain things when if it was just that case of being a Democrat or a Republican, but it's so much deeper than that. And so like he was saying, like we have to bridge that gap right now of being a Democrat or a Republican if that's where people are still at. And obviously a lot of us are way past that point. It's more about humanity, it's more about human rights, it's more about oppressive
Yeah.
systems, it's more about abolishing those oppressive systems like you were saying earlier and breaking things down in order for us to rebuild a society that we're actually fitting into, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I will say, like, mass amount of people do not fit within the systems that be, right?
No.
And so
No.
that's the problem is like, it's like you said earlier, it's not that these systems don't work for certain people. It's not that no, it doesn't work for a lot of people, and it's
Mhm.
never. But
Right.
unfortunately, we have been accustomed to some of these things in life and socialization in life that like we have turned a blind eye to it, or it doesn't happen to my neighborhood, or it doesn't happen
Mhm.
to my family member, or you know what I mean? And so like, but I do have a feeling that everybody is waking up in a different way right now.
Yeah.
And that grand awakening, like I'm gonna go off topic a little bit and then I'll go back to you. But like
Yeah.
I was
No,
watching
you're good.
something on TikTok today that there's a lot of videos going around about I think it's a Sammy Hagar song that was released in 1977. And
Okay.
in that song, he is talking a lot about what's going on. And he literally says in the song something about 2025 and the Grand Awakening and da 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 da. And obviously we're in 2026 now, but like this has
Right.
been happening. So
Yeah.
like it's really odd and crazy how things happen, but I feel bad for all the people that are falling into that propaganda of what white supremacy is really enveloping them in.
Yeah.
But
The greatest thing, because I was an instructor, a CDL instructor, and I've used this before where I've talked about fear. And as a CDL instructor, I used to tell my students a scared driver is a dangerous driver. So I apply that to life. A scared person is a dangerous person. A
hmm
scared dog will bite.
hmm
And that's, I think, what we're seeing. We're seeing white supremacists. I don't know if you're aware, but Minnesota still encompasses 55 active chapters of the KKK.
yeah,
Active.
yeah,
They're not as public and they show up in different ways. But
hmm
what that means is, and Jake, I'm going to say, little Eddie, toddler Eddie Jake Lang, he said to me that day, I said, what is really going on? When I got him to turn away from the crowd and engage with me, to steal a moment of his time from spewing his hate, I said, what is this really about? And he was like, I'm scared. I said, what are you scared of? He said, I'm scared to be a minority as a white man. I said, you are a minority.
you already
He said,
are.
exactly. We are a minority. I said, so all this hate is because you're afraid.
Right.
And that's what it is. Like fear shows up dangerous.
Yeah.
And what I said too is what we're seeing in the world is like the leadership is like an abusive partner that is losing control
Mm-hmm.
of the person they've been abusing because
Mm-hmm.
now that person is standing up going, no more, no fucking more.
Right.
And that's what I believe the analytical piece of it is. That's what we're seeing. And what do abusive partners do? They get worse. And now they try to lie about them. Like, I don't know what's wrong with them. They're all crazy. So we're all crazy because we're standing up against the abuse.
Right.
And that's the way I can put it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll continue to be crazy because, you know, I'll
Yeah.
continue.
Well, and they gaslight you. If you've
Yeah.
been in an abusive relationship, you understand that. It's like I've been gaslit before in relationships,
Yeah.
and it's crazy that how it works and how fast it happens and like all the
Mm.
things. And so, but yeah, I'm with you on all the
And then you
fronts.
feel lost.
And then you
And
feel
then
lost.
like, and that's why I know a lot of people in the community now are starting to feel lost because
Yeah.
now when people, I had that moment. I promise you, I had moments as an advocate where I was under fire and publicly, they were saying things about me. And I began to feel like, and turn to the people that were close to me, like, am I really this bad person? They're like, no, they're doing this because you're doing something. And
Mm-hmm.
it's speaking to and it's putting a spotlight on what they're unable to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think about that a lot. Like, okay, so when people spew hate, instead of saying, hey, how can I help you? I want to get involved. When they spew hate and they try to tear down your platform, it says more about them than it does about you. It says more about you putting a spotlight on what they maybe feel either they're afraid of or they're incapable of or they don't have the capacity or they just don't understand it.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest part I wanted to just say that there what definitely keeps me hopeful in it is that like you said a moment ago, a lot of people are waking up and unfortunately everybody has been saying, black, brown, and indigenous people have been saying this for years,
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of years,
Mm-hmm.
maybe thousands of years.
Centuries.
And now somebody that looked like you and I, or somebody that
Mm-hmm.
looked, Alex Preddy and Renee
Mm-hmm.
Good, now people are going, oh shit, it's on our doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, like it's always been on your doorstep, but I'm grateful you're here. Like
Yeah.
I'm grateful you're here. And I think that that
Yep.
was the biggest thing that I felt in that moment was seeing people come up and say what they saw me do was so powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it was just a day in the life of me saying, fuck this.
Yep.
Like, no.
Yep.
And but seeing how people and I just didn't want to make it just a viral moment. And
Right,
so
right. That wasn't your intention
that's
of going there. Yeah, you didn't have.
no, not
Same
at
thing with
all.
me. Same thing with me. I kicked that
Right.
lady out not because
Yep.
I didn't even know she was going to do a video after. Had
Yeah.
no clue. I didn't think that that
Yeah.
was going to happen. But I just felt like, no, I'm not going to take dirty money. I'm done with that. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
and obviously I have participated in that. My spa is in the suburbs. Like I have
Yeah.
participated in that for many years, unfortunately. I told my husband this, like, during the uprising during 2020, there was a ton of clients that didn't align with me that I had
Mhm.
that we didn't talk about that
You
much, but
didn't
I
talk about
probably
yeah.
knew deep down in my soul that they were not aligned.
Yeah.
So, but you come to a point in your life where enough is enough, or you're willing to make that really courageous effort, or so like you said, if you're just joining this resistance, welcome. But like we
Yes.
all are in different phases in our life. And so sometimes that can be frustrating for some of like, why are these people taking forever to join this and see this
Mm.
and understand this? But we can't focus on that. We just have
Right.
to keep on moving forward, right? And that's what
Yeah.
you're saying is like, we just have to keep on moving forward with it. Don't get too stuck on that. But the thing like that still boggles my mind is me kicking a client out for not doing her lashes and not aligning with my business set
Mm.
this whole wildfire
Yeah.
like on that. And
Remember,
I'm like,
like somebody
just
messaged me
yeah,
that video and they were like, we need you to go find Heidi. We need you to send people her way. And
all
I
because
went
I
there
didn't do
the
her
next
lashes.
day. Yeah. I went there the next day and was like, she's not here. And then I'm texting you because I found the number on your website.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, how can I help you?
Yeah. I appreciate that too. Cause like I was really surprised by it because like, when you do a little bit different work, like maybe your work, for instance, some of your work is very out there, very controversial in some ways, right? So you
Yeah.
might say some of that's going to warrant some
Yeah.
crazy behaviors. Whereas like I
Right.
literally kicked a client out and I did her I used to do her lashes. So like I just didn't think it was that serious, you know, like I offer
Yeah.
luxury services. Like, do you know what I mean? So like
Right.
that's why it was a little bit crazy that I've been getting all the craziness, but like I'm here for it now. Like I
Yeah.
like now that I've gone through the
Yeah.
fuzz of it, like I'm much more able to deal with it in the future if it ever happens again. But you know, but I will say, like, when you step into that alignment, you know, I think there's something really powerful about it. So for
Mhm.
me, knowing that I'm stepping into that alignment more and being more outspoken about it, not that I haven't been, but in being more outspoken in different ways about it now, it just feels good having clients come to you that are aligned, number one, or people online coming to you saying like, wow, I'm with you, or so feeling that love and feeling that humanity, like there's just something about, and I always feel that when I go to protests too. Like when I go to protests, you feel that love, you feel that
Yeah.
energy. Now, I'm going to ask you, you had talked earlier about people feeling overwhelmed, people feeling helpless.
Mhm.
What are real ways, you know, I have a ton of different real ways that I suggest, but what are real ways that people can kind of show up, support each other, get involved? Like what are real ways that we can get over that overwhelm and that helpless feeling in case somebody does feel that still?
Yeah. I started right away in the community because our comrades, I know what was happening in the community. So with, ICE showing up with the wrongful convictions already happening, like for the last 3 years, I would do this event in Florida to feed the community around in November. And it was based on one of the cases I was working on, Philip Vance, and we called it fill up day. And it was just like to show up in the community to let them know, like, we see you, we understand that, yeah, he's struggling behind the walls, but we know there's struggles out here. And so I knew what was happening in Minnesota, and I saw a slow degradation of the hope. People were going hungry. People were afraid to leave home. People were afraid to ride an Uber because they didn't know if it would be an undercover ICE agent. People were getting picked up by ICE. People were getting picked up by the police, whatever. So I just started getting filtered with, hey, can you help with groceries? So I did put a GoFundMe out there for mutual aid. And I was doing groceries myself and making deliveries myself, making food, doing this. And then anything like at the end of the day, hey, I've got $20 left over. I'm going to send it to you for your mutual aid tomorrow, whatever you got going on. And then I'll just wait for more to come in. So that's what I've been doing aside from regular work and showing up in the community. So I think that showing up for people like that, and like I had a lady who she sent me a message. She's like, I know you're doing like amazing work, but I literally just need a pack of cigarettes. I like everything else is covered. I just don't have a pack of cigarettes and my nerves are completely shot. And I ask questions. Hey, I drove 35 minutes one way to deliver a pack of cigarettes. Like, and I think that just those little gestures show people like, damn, you took time out of your day at 10 o'clock at night to do this for me. Like, and it was like, that's me because I know, like, I said I always wanted to show up and be who I needed. I don't have that in my life. And, and I don't sit in pity on that, but I don't have that in my life. I don't have anybody for me. Like, it's me and my kids, and I'm my fallback plan. Right. And so I'm sure if I reached out to the community, I could. Like, for example, being involved in advocacy recently, it puts you in harm's way with the authorities and the justice system. I had to retain a lawyer 2 days ago because of an interaction with a client, information that I know. I said, ooh, this is going to put me in some type of way. I had to retain a lawyer. So it's having hope and helping people, I think, is just, I can give as much hope as I can. Like, if people inbox me, I love to give encouragement. But how do we find that hope? I think it's important to find community, people that we trust, that we can ground with, find activities that make us feel comfortable. Like me, I move between Minnesota and Florida, going to the beach, going to the ocean. That's the grounding for me. But sometimes, if you're not able to, a salt bath, just that simple, cleansing your spirit, your aura. Like, I don't like, I just know, like, if you have somebody around you and they're saying like, hey, I'm struggling. I know, like, a lot of organizations are out there helping. I
Hmm.
don't yeah, I don't even know all the names. I just know, like, I know Smitten Kitten
Yeah.
in Minneapolis is doing amazing work. I do know
Yeah.
that. And she's a 30-year-old owner of a sex shop.
Right.
And she's doing more than the government has even talked about doing. But it's like
Right.
little places like that. And then I know there's other mutual aid or whatever, but I just try to funnel to who
Yeah.
I know I can trust. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess just spending time. I wanted to, because the Pink Now Revolution is what's turned into a movement which came out of that viral moment for me.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
so
talk
me
a
and
little bit about that. What are you doing with the Pink Down Revolution?
yeah, me and a comrade, we're currently building, we copyrighted it, we got the domain, we got it. And it's not about money, it's about pouring back into the community, but it's about really what we want to do is like connect with women and femmes and, everybody that's in that inclusivity circle. And then we want our allies to be safe men, okay? Because the matriarch really can lead this revolution in a very organized, very productive way. But we need a border of protection. And sometimes that looks like having men as our allies that will watch for the attacks and defend the attacks and change the narrative that we would choose the bear. You know what I mean? We need safe men to prove that we can choose them again and not choose the bear, if you know what that means. So
Yeah.
the pink note. So real quick, having hope, I'm trying to decide how to do meetings with the Pink Now Revolution because I've thrown it out there like, let's do a weekly Zoom or a bi-weekly Zoom and let's talk to women about their ideas on how to get involved in the community, but
Hmm.
also share space and be able to share our emotions and how does that feel and help each other process it.
Yeah.
Because going out into the world being composed and regulated is really important for safety too.
Right.
And I've had some pushback and people like, well, how do we know we have to vet people that are on these Zooms? And I get it,
Yeah.
but how do we know until we do it?
Yeah.
Because there's going to be times where people are going to intrude in our space.
Yep.
And that's when we show up in our regulation and our composure and say, hey, listen, I appreciate you're here, but if you're not here for the greater purpose, then you're going to have to exit. And
Right.
I think that that's okay. That's okay to sometimes people to be intrude in our space and us to call it out
Yeah.
because that's what dismantling things is
Yeah.
calling it out. So,
Yeah, and that's a real life scenario. That's happening a lot with the Twin Cities right now of like, people infiltrating into our signal chats and things like that. And so you get easier, but like a lot of it's about just trusting your gut, right? Like if something
yeah,
doesn't feel right or if somebody's saying something that just doesn't, quite,
yeah,
align, you're like, hmm. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm always about trusting your gut with things. I love this idea of kind of starting like an open roundtable type chat
yeah,
because, you know, the chat's going to guide itself a little bit, right?
yeah,
Like, and I see a
mm,
lot of different organizations do that. One of my clients, she's doing that in kind of the wellness space down in where she is like they joining together a couple different businesses and they're like, hey, we're going to meet the first Wednesday of every month, and this is like an open opportunity for you to come and talk about things, and the conversation is guided by who comes. And so I think
nice.
that's kind
Yeah,
of cool. Yeah. So like I think there's something to that. I also think so. Congratulations on starting that because a lot of times it's just about starting things, right? Like it's not,
yeah,
it's not complicated. It's just about somebody stewarding the conversation or opening up the opportunity of a date and a time and things like that. So the
yeah,
organization of it all sometimes is like where people get lost. But I think if people are feeling hopeless, like if you are feeling hopeless and you're listening, uh basically like what I got from it and what I've been doing, what I've gotten from what you're doing and what I've been doing is just get involved in your community.
yeah,
Like reach out to your neighbors that you do trust, like reach out to people and see where you can help. Like, and
yeah,
that to me, action is always going to take away that helplessness. Action's always going to take away that anxiety, like
yeah,
because once you take action you're not you don't have time or energy or effort, and your body just naturally isn't going to feel those emotions anymore. So
because
yeah.
when people say, well, how do I get involved? Like, let's say maybe they're disabled or this or that. So this is what I
Yeah.
say is if you can be boots on the ground, great. Connect with somebody that you know is boots on the ground and ask how you can do that.
Right.
If you can't be boots on the ground, but you can cook a meal, let somebody
Right.
know, hey, I can cook a meal for, so and so. Great. If you'd rather just like put your money somewhere, make whatever action you can do be your boots on the ground. And I say that you can't finish a puzzle if you're missing even one piece. It's
Right.
not complete. We are all a piece of the puzzle that makes the greater picture. No action is greater than the other. And that's what I always tell people. Like, it
Yeah.
you don't have to be in the face of
Right.
everything. You could be behind the scenes, you could, whatever that looks like. But definitely, and if anybody messages me, like, I can definitely point them in a direction or say, hey, or if you're needing encouragement, I respond to every message, every
Yeah.
message.
I
Unless you're going to
know.
kill me, unless you're saying you're going to kill me. I don't.
Yes, we're not going to respond to that. Uh,
Right.
so going forward, what do you have going on for Pink Nail Revolution? You already said the meetings.
Mm,
What
yeah.
else do you have kind of cauldering up, and what is coming up for you?
I think that what we really want this to look like, so me personally, like, I'm building things, I have a logistics business and I'm doing that. And I'm trying to get out of logistics business because I want to be more retired eventually. So I'm looking into real estate and this kind of thing. And so looking at how those avenues can help people. I was an instructor for for class A CDL, helping mentor people in a field that can help them provide for their families. And so I look at that and so how can I apply this into Pink Nail Revolution and showing women unity, but also showing white women, like, listen, it's okay if you didn't know how to get involved. It's okay if you didn't know what to do. It's okay if you were afraid to say the wrong thing, but you're here now. So I'm going to take your hand. Let's go. Let's connect with all women and femmes and let's do this. And I think what it's still unfolding what we want it to look like, but having chapters in multiple places, other states. I've had people say, "Hey, I want to have a chapter here." And looking at that as support for domestic violence, as say for the hungry, for the homeless, for I don't want it can't just be like, oh, we're just here because of ICE. It has to look like we're here for the long term. We're here to support you so that people can be self-sufficient and feel sustained in life. Because to be honest, like, I'm even a survivor of a suicide. And I've been had moments of hopelessness. And I know that in those moments, and you feel you have nothing to turn to, that I don't want that to be somebody's ending. I want them to know, like, even though people look at me like, oh, well, I'm sure she's busy. No, if you text me, if you message me, I will respond. And anybody in my following knows that has reached out to me. I had, there's I want to say the video of Edward Jake Lang kicking down this ice sculpture. It's on my profile. They can look there. But also, I've connected with a law firm that's nationwide to help people do pro bono services, not just ICE, but any interaction with police. And so those kind of things that I say, like, there's a lot of ways. I had a guy reach out to me and he didn't expect me to respond. He's like, oh my God, you really responded. Like, I made a whole video that I respond. So, I think that Pink Now Revolution is just who I am, who I've always been. I'll show up, I'll answer, I'll take the call. And I have two cases that I'm working on privately, but my comrade with Pink Now Revolution said, hey, wherever you need me. So that may become something that the Pink Now Revolution puts their stamp on too. I have a meeting next week with Innocence Project. They want me to
Hmm.
talk about a project that potentially they want me to, lead the charge on. And so Pink Now Revolution is going to come with me. We're all going to go because I know I'm just one person. I can exhaust myself. But
Right.
now I have a group of people that believe in what I believe in. And I can say, hey, who here in the group can help me read this case file and summarize it back to me? So I feel like it could be
Right.
so many things. We're just kind of like right now, like, we can do it all, so
Yeah, it sounds like you're building something amazing. So that's
yeah,
awesome. And like you said, it's going to you're going to build it as you go. And I think that's
yeah,
really cool too, but it's rooted in really good things and that's all that matters, really.
right,
You
right,
know what
for
I
sure,
mean?
for
So
sure.
where can people connect with you online? Where can they find more about how to, if they want to join the Pink Nail Revolution, where can they find you?
So there's people say I can't say there's a link in my bio. They say I have to say a clink. So I don't know. There's a link and a bunch of links within that link. So if you go to it, it shows up as a website and it talks about the day that the viral moment actually turned into a movement for me. And like my intention was never to even be viral. But and then down below that little statement, it's every link about me. You can give to Pink Now Revolution. You can give to me personally. Buy me a coffee's on there. My all my socials are on there, and then all the 2 cases that I'm working on. There's a link to them. Every link will take you to another site. There's one about my comrade Nene. There's one about me personally, and there's one about each one of my cases. So all the links will take you to a new page about it. And then when you go to my page about me, there's my personal social media links on the main link. So you can find anything once you click that link. Just scroll through. There's several pages. Find anything about me, how you can contribute, how you can get involved. There's my email. Shoot me email. Let me know you want to get involved. And like I said, we're building like a Zoom, and it's hard to know. I have a Signal group or a Signal set up. I haven't built a group yet. So I think maybe letting people know, but it's so hard to do that publicly because, like you said,
You have to
we
be
get people that
invited.
will infiltrate. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think that starting out on the Zoom and vetting people in that manner, I think is a good idea because then I'm in Zoom, I can see you on video, and the requirement will be, unfortunately, I need to be able to see you and hear you. I need to be able to interact with you, and we'll vet people in that manner and
Mhm.
know like, and then I hate for it to be like that, but it has to.
It
And then
does.
like, hey, drop your social media and let me scope it out because if your social media just started, I'm going to question that.
Right.
If your social media has anything MAGA, I'm definitely not. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think that that's kind of where we're at. But
Yeah. And of course, those links will be in the show notes. So all you have to do is just click on them.
yeah,
Well, thank you, Miss Nikki. I think you gave
thank
people
you.
hope. You gave people, you shared your story. I appreciate everything that you have given us today. And thank you for being on.
Thank you, Heidi. You're amazing. And listen, keep giving luxury services to people that are aligned and let the lashes look ugly on all the MAGAs.
I agree. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Be safe.
You too.
All right.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, I'd love for you to leave a review. It really helps more people find the show. And if you know someone who'd also enjoy it, share it with them or tag me on Instagram so I can thank you. New episodes come out every week, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss one. See you next time.